You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. Lauren Calve started singing and playing guitar at the age of 15, but it wasn't till a trip abroad in her mid-20s that she caught the bug for songwriting and performing. Lauren's new EP, Wildfire, is set to release June 23rd, and she is my guest on this next edition of Americana Music Profiles. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being on with us today. You are in D.C., Washington, is that right?
Yes. I'm in the D.C. metro area, specifically in Maryland, just a mile outside. We call it the DMV, the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area.
Okay, good. Well, is that always been home, or did you grow up somewhere else?
It has, yes. I grew up in Northern Virginia. I've also lived in D.C. for 5 or 6 years, and now I'm in Maryland. So I'm a true DMV girl.
Okay, all right. What's it like? Because you're on that Americana country kind of spectrum with your music. DC tends to be a little more urban, progressive kind of style. What's it like having that kind of flavor in a metro environment?
Well, actually, DC has pretty strong roots in roots music. Lou Harris got her start here, and there are a number of music venues that have since closed, like the Bayou and others that attracted a lot of Americana roots musicians like Neil Young and others. So there is an appreciation of Americana music here, and a lot of venues have opened sort of with that slant. There's the Sally's, which unfortunately has since closed this year. Was named after a Townes Van Zandt song, Here Comes the Valley, and they specialize mainly in roots music. And Carl Street Warehouse, now in D.C., also it centers more around roots music too. So I'd say it's actually a really great place to be an Americana roots musician.
Yeah. And of course, there's all the kind of that first wave of progressive bluegrass that came out of the D.C. metro area, Country Gentlemen, and there's more progressive style bluegrass artists 30, 40 years ago. So, yeah.
Yep, right.
How did you get started in your music career?
Well, there's this great music venue called Iota Club and Cafe in Arlington, Virginia, where I started attending the open mics when I was in my early 20s. Okay. And started performing there every Wednesday, and that's what got me into songwriting and got me into performing, because before that I wasn't really writing original music. I had a huge fear of performing, and so this open mic really helped develop me as an artist, helped me find my voice, and developed a passion for performing that I never knew existed.
Did you have a childhood exposure to music?
Yes, I did. My mom is a singer and an instrumentalist. My brothers are also musicians. So there was always music in the house. My dad had a very eclectic CD collection there was always music playing in the house and a variety of music. So my brothers and I all really absorbed that. I probably was the one who developed singing, a passion for singing before my brothers. I've been singing for as long as I can remember, and then I started playing guitar when I was 15.
When were you drawn to the songwriting aspect of it?
Not until my early 20s. For some reason, songwriting came really late for me. And yeah, it just happened one day where I just was suddenly flooded with inspiration, and I wrote 2 songs, I think, that I still play to this day, and they're actually some of my favorite songs I've ever written.
Yeah, cool.
And the melodies just came out of nowhere, and it was this bluesy, rootsy style that really I hadn't been singing like that before, with more of like a strong vocal style, and definitely more of a bluesy vocal style. And yeah, it seemingly came out of nowhere, though. Of course, that style is in the music that I was listening to or had been listening to, but it was kind of a surprise to me how literally my voice came out and the style I started writing in as well.
Were you performing open mic night kind of things prior to you beginning to write your own music?
A little bit, yes. It actually started when I was teaching English in South Korea, and
cool.
I brought my guitar out there, not really knowing what I do with it other than just what I always had, which was just to play it for comfort and
entertain yourself,
and entertain myself, right? Not knowing how my life is really going to be, trying to have some comforting objects with me. But I did end up getting involved with sort of a music community, performed in a local expat music festival that was close to the military base in Seoul, and also performed at an open mic at an expat bar around the same area. So that, to me, looking back, I think it was because I was in a foreign country. I didn't know these people. I probably would never see them again in my life.
Yeah.
It allowed me to kind of get out of my shell and perform in front of people, really, for the first time.
Okay. And then you ended up out west for a season too, right?
I did, yes. Right after I came back from Korea, I worked at a dude ranch out in Wyoming. And yeah, and they're actually sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm assuming you were I was gonna ask you if the music continued there.
Yes, it did. Again, I brought my guitar out there, not knowing exactly how music would be a part of my life out on a dude ranch. But there were other musicians who worked there, and we bring our guitars out to bonfires. But also there was the manager of the ranch, musician, and a singer, and he would entertain the guests every Friday night after dinner.
Okay.
In this cabin. And so we had kind of this talent show of sorts amongst the workers. And after that, the manager started to invite me to this cabin to entertain the guests. And so I would perform there as well. So, in a different setting than what I had done in Korea, but also kind of developing me further as a performer, and then also hearing the guests be like, "What are you doing here? You should be in Nashville."
Okay.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It started to build my confidence, for sure.
Now, were you doing any of your originals at that point, or had you not started the songwriting side of your life?
Yeah, I still had not written an original song at that point.
Wow. So, how long were you in Wyoming?
It was a seasonal job, so really only 5 months.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then from there back to the D.C. area?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And then I got a real adult job working for the government, a job that I still have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at what point then, once you're back home and working the adult job, did the writing and performance move to the next level for you?
Yeah, so it was through the open mic that I already talked about at IOTA, where I met some other musicians who helped me start a band. And the band, which was under my name, just Lauren Calve Band or something like that, we performed my original music, and that was when I first started, getting the idea of producing my music with a full band and starting to think of my music in a full band setting. And from there, started performing more with other bands in the area, getting to know other singer-songwriters, and that's when I really started to feel part of the music community.
And the record is this your first, the EP?
It's actually my third EP.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one that is, I guess, not quite out yet, Wildfire, is that correct? That's the new one?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about getting to write the first one. When did it become evident to you that you had material that you felt was worthy enough to go into the studio and record?
Yeah, so I recorded my first EP in 2014, and at that point, I probably had about a dozen shows, school band shows under my belt, so still pretty new, still getting my feet wet, but the band that was supporting me, I would say that they were veteran performers and had been in the studio before, or had performed with other singer-songwriters or in other bands. So it was through them that I, in their encouragement, that I finally went into the studio. I had the confidence to go into the studio to record a song. Otherwise, I don't think I would have thought that. I don't think I would have gotten to that thought myself.
Yeah.
Because being in the studio, it's such a strange and different animal than performing, and then it is to, writing the songs.
Sure,
and collaborating with your band and doing rehearsals and practices. So, that was, and it was so soon after I had gotten off the open mic stage and started writing, and then was in a band, and then immediately went into the recording studio. I feel fortunate that I feel like I grew in a really short amount of time.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because I would think that especially the process that you grew up through, not really writing until you were a little bit older, and then kind of all of a sudden the dominoes start falling really fast. It probably is a fairly surreal experience.
Yeah, it was. I still feel like I'm processing it because I feel very fortunate, and yet I look back and I think, my God, I couldn't even get on a stage. 7 years ago. I'm fortunate to have a lot of people in my life who have been very encouraging and who have given me a lot of confidence, because I don't think innately I have had very much of that.
Yeah. Does it feel like it's getting easier? This is your third record now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has been. I consider myself a quick learner. I like having new experiences and learning new things. I consider myself a very curious person. I love learning, and so I've really taken to, just kind of gone into all of these experiences with an open mind and the sort of make-it attitude. And now I really love being, if not the sole producer, co-producer on my record, and I really love being in the studio and doing that whole process and writing my songs and arranging them and working with the band to arrange them as well. So I've definitely grown through all this, and I think, yeah, I've really embraced it as it, sort of come along.
Uh-huh. What, how far ahead do you look with this? Your third record, this one's Wildfire, still working, having a day job of sorts. Are you projecting far out enough that you want to do this full time? Do you know yet where this goes?
I don't know exactly, though. Now, I do have a team around me, more people working with me to help me achieve, I guess, which is my final goal, which is to be a career musician, a career songwriter and performer. I just would love to be able to step away from my government job and just to be able to make a full-time living out of music, for sure.
When you get out and get a chance to play your original material, what does that look like for you? Are you able to get out of the D.C., Maryland metro area? Is there potential tour in the works? Do you get to play festivals? What does all of that look like for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have played some local festivals, and I've toured regionally a few times. Probably as far north as New York City, as far south as Atlanta, as far west as Knoxville.
Okay.
So, still kind of in the East Coast, Mid-Atlantic area.
Yeah, getting close to Nashville.
But, yeah, getting you right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love touring. I want to do more of it. I want to focus on that once we're able to get back on the road and once venues are able to open again. I definitely want that to be a focus and want to expand my, I guess, touring footprint.
So the new record is Wildfire. I think I read it's supposed to be out towards the end of June. Is that right?
Yes, June 23rd.
So where can people listen to your music, pick up a copy of your other records, maybe pre-order this one?
Unfortunately, Wildfire is not available to pre-order, but the first single off of Wildfire, which is Better Angels, is out now.
Okay,
and it's available to stream on Spotify and Apple and Amazon. You can download it from iTunes and Amazon as well. And I love the other record. Between The Creek and the Tracks and Right Dark 2, my other two CDs are also available on those platforms as well.
And your website is what? Where can they get you directly?
My website is laurencalve.com.
And spell that out for us so we can make sure we get it right in the search window.
Okay, sure. It's LaurenCalve.com.
Good. Well, thanks, Lauren. This has been really neat, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we certainly wish you well with the new record, and we wish all the artists opportunity to get back out on the road soon, and so we can begin to enjoy some of this great music live again.
Yes, I also hope for that, and thank you so much for having me. This was really fun getting to talk to you.
Yeah, good. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Americana Music Profiles. Find us on iTunes at Americana Music Profiles and on the internet at AmericanaRhythm.com.